If you'd like to get this and or any other Safari Ltd product, make sure to head over to www.safariltd.com and use the promo code KikiandCoffee at checkout, or use the link provided in the description to not only save 15% off of your next order, but you will also be financially supporting myself and the channel. So without further ado, what is up guys, it is KikiZilla101 here yet again, back for another review. Today we're going to be reviewing this Safari Ltd 2019 Bigfoot figure. Now this figure was kindly sent over to me by Safari Ltd themselves for the hashtag HowISafari campaign, so I want to thank you so much to Safari for sending this out to be reviewed on the channel. Now without further ado, this is a figure I have really kind of wanted for a while now, and I'm so happy I finally got it. This is basically, if you guys don't know, I've been a huge fan of cryptids my entire life. When I was a kid, I used to, like, my first experience on YouTube was literally watching cryptid videos, like watching Bigfoot sightings and Mothman videos and Chupacabra videos and Jersey Devil, all those cool monster videos. I was such a huge fan of watching those when I was younger, like Loch Ness Monster, aliens and stuff. I didn't necessarily believe all of them, but I think when I was younger I did believe some of them. I believe a lot less of them now. A lot less of them. But I still find cryptids to be very fascinating. I think that some of them definitely have more potential than others, but in general I just find them to be very fascinating for their overall design and the mystery, and more of like the movie monster type of way I enjoy them, design-wise, and the characters and stuff, rather than actually believing that they're real. And Bigfoot is obviously the pinnacle of a cryptid. I mean, like, especially if you're here in the U.S. I mean, if you're somewhere else in the world, it could be a Yowie or a Yeti or something like that, or maybe even a skunk ape if you're in, like, Florida. But Bigfoot is the big man, no pun intended. Maybe partially intended. But this figurine is so awesome, just to have, like, a really well done model of Bigfoot that's actually an affordable price too, that I can just put in my collection and kind of like encapsulate part of my childhood and my upbringing, and what has, you know, turned me into who I am today is a lot of my fascination with cryptids. And so this will be really cool to add onto my masterpiece shelf. This is a little memento of that. And now obviously that sounds like it's a lot about me and less about the figure, but I think it's really important to bring up because this figure is of something that's not really made very often in like an affordable, widely available form. And like, you really don't get Bigfoot figures very often, and this one is just very well done. I really enjoy this figure immensely. The detail on this figurine is incredible. As you can see, the fur detail is superb. It is actually the best fur detail I've seen on any of Safari's figures. Now, if you remember, like, their Cenozoic prehistoric mammal figurines, there's ones like the woolly rhino or the daeodon or the mastodon, which have those really crisp fur detail, but they look very stamped and not really real. When you actually look at them, you can tell that there's rows of them going in a line, and there's not really like they look more like stamps rather than actually like fur intertwined with each other. But then you have really good things like the hyaenodon and macrocania, which have far more realistic fur detail because all the fur like intertangles with each other and they kind of weave in like a giant mat covering of the entire animal, as you can see on the hyaenodon or macrocania. Here's one of the other more stampy type details you see on this woolly rhino, which actually was just reviewed on the channel if you guys want to check that out. This, you can see it's really crisp. The fur detail is very crisp, but it doesn't look as real because you can see the lines coming across there, as you can see the rows of stamps for all the fur detail. So whoever was sculpting it was like just basically stamping like a texture onto the model, and it comes across there, like you can see right here. You can see this. There's a stamp right there where a bunch of like the same length fur detail, and then they end at the same point. So it doesn't look as convincing, doesn't look as real, but it's very crisp and nice looking in terms of its fineness. Then you have things which is my preferred type of detail, is this one on the hyaenodon, where you can see where the sculptor was actually like intertwining the fur in amongst itself, so you don't actually see any uniform endings or any lines that are continuing across the entire thing. The entire model has these like fur strands that are intertangling with each other and then covering the entire body. This is much more what like actual fur looks like. But the downside of this one is it's not as crisp. It's a lot more smooth. While on the other hand, you have this one, which is more crisp, and some people find it more appealing to the eye. And then this one just is more realistic, but a little less crisp. The Bigfoot meets it perfectly in the middle. As you can see here, it's got these beautifully crisp fur, but they all intertangle with each other. You don't have any of that stamping detail. It just looks incredible. Everything's just mixing together phenomenally. And that's one of the strongest points of this figure, I really do believe. I think it's one of my favorite parts, to be honest, is just the detail of the fur. It looks so incredible. It looks really crazily good. I'm gonna move these guys out of the way real quick. Oops. But I guess I will show you guys this real quick as a quick size comparison, which is the Safari LTD Tyrannus, which is our control size comparison. As you can see, I just dropped him, but I wasn't worried about that because he's only got one coat of paint. The whole, like, this is the color of the model, this like darker black brown, and then there's this lighter brown that's just dry brushed over the entire figure. And it's just that one paint. Like, as you can see on the face, there's no paint on the face at all other than that brown. There's no mouth paint or eye paint. And some people, including myself at first, thought that this was a downside. However, I actually think it really works to the figure's benefit for one particular reason. It makes it very low profile. There's some really great pictures that my friend Dino Man has taken of this figurine that he got. If I can get the picture from him, I will put it up on the screen right now. It looks just like a Bigfoot sighting image because usually in those pictures that's very pixelated. You can't actually make out the details of the face. You just can tell that there are features there. And so from a distance, it just really looks like there is that ominous silhouette. You can tell there's eyes there, but you can't really see into the detail or the color or the pupils or anything like that. And I think it just really adds to the mystery of the figure as a whole. But it also makes sure that it stays at a low price. This is a very affordable figure. So this is a $10 figurine. So this is a really affordable piece, and it is really worth it, guys. I adore this figurine. I think that the minimal paint actually really adds to the overall low profileness of the figure, and it makes it a lot more affordable. Last things I'll just touch up on is the pose. I love how it's got the iconic Patterson Gimlin film pose from that, which is actually supposed to be a female Bigfoot. This one is clearly more a male. But that was a female Bigfoot with that famous posture in that video. Everybody knows what it is, and so it's really awesome that they recreated that pose with this figurine. I do feel like there is some mild awkwardness to it, which is probably my only gripe with it, and that's maybe it is twisted just a little bit too far, but that's just something I've noticed. It's not really something I'm going to complain about. The one thing that does look a little weird to me is the way that the fingers are positioned. Like in this one in particular, it just doesn't really look natural. The way that thumb is just like perfectly aligned with the hand like that as it's like thrown back. It just doesn't look like a natural position for that thumb. I'd figure it'd be along the side of the hand. This one is the same thing, but I guess that could be them just trying to make it so that maybe it could hold something. I'm not really sure what exactly it could hold, but there's just some mild awkwardness to that. And the other big thing that, or bigger thing on this masterpiece of a figure, the other thing that bothers me is this seam line on this arm here. Clearly this arm was a separate piece or something when they were sculpting it, and I have heard that maybe this was for them to be able to paint the inside of the arm here so that it wouldn't be like really difficult for them to paint inside the armpit. However, if you actually take a look here, there isn't any paint in the armpit. It's just the solid color of the plastic. So that's not really an excuse. I don't really know what is up with the seam line there or why it was necessary, but it does distract me quite a bit whenever I look at it. It's a very elevated seam line, so I wish that wasn't the case. But other than that, I think this thing is just utterly beautiful. It's a masterpiece. The coloration is beautiful. The pose is iconic. I love it. I'm going to easily give this one a 9.5 out of 10. I'm only docking at that half point just because of the awkwardness in the fingers and that seam line just do bother me just ever so slightly. But guys, this is just a beautiful, beautiful sculpt. If you guys want to get your hands on this Bigfoot figure or any other Safari LTD product, you can even get it for a lower price if you go onto their website, www.safariltd.com, and use the promo code Kiki and Coffee. and you can get 15% off of your next purchase. That means you can get this guy for even cheaper than $10, and some of the proceeds will be going to support myself and the channel. So you're not only saving money on your figure, but you're also helping me out in the process. So anyways, guys, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.